Hey guys, welcome back. I'm here with another video. This is a response to MegaDan29. Put a shout out there. Kind of asking, I think, more specifically about what NES games you grew up with. But since I predate the NES, I'm going to include at least 2 games that are on the ColecoVision, because that's what I started out with. Now, the ColecoVision came out early 80s. It only really ran for a couple of years, but it had quite a few good titles. It had 2 particular that I want to bring up. One is the Smurfs. Now, the Smurfs was kind of a silly game, and it's just as goofy as you think it is. It was a pretty simple, basic platformer where you controlled a generic Smurf who was off to rescue Smurfette from Gargamel. So, to that end, you would make your way over various different platforms, avoiding various different hazards and things like that, until you made your way to Gargamel's castle and jumped up and saved Smurfette. This would continue until you just couldn't do the platforming anymore. It would progressively get harder and harder as you went through the game and again and again and again. The whole idea was basically just to get a high score, which is how pretty much all games of that era worked. The next game that really came to mind was Time Pilot. Time Pilot was my first introduction to what I knew as shooters, up until the modern era started calling them shmups. And it was a very, very good game. You start out around the World War I era, where you're flying around, you're fighting off biplanes and things like that. Eventually you're fighting like choppers and jets, all the way up to like UFOs and things like that. At the end of each stage, after you killed enough of the enemies, boss thing would pop up, be it a blimp, plane, something like that, that you'd have to kill. As you completed the cycle and beat off all the UFOs and things like that, it would reset back in time and you'd go back to like the initial starting time zone, but you would gain like a medal, right? And the idea was just to keep going until you accumulate as many medals as you could, or, you know, you died and were unable to complete it, because things got faster and harder as it increased the level of difficulty each time through the game. Again, really, really common theme for very, very early games. Moving on from there, I remember going into the store and seeing an NES for the very first time. Now, this was one of the packs that they had together that came in with Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and it came with a Light Blaster and 2 controllers. And I begged and pleaded with my mom to get that for us, and she finally broke down and bought it. And I loved it. Well, except for that dog. I still remember you, dog. I remember. Never forget, stupid dog. Probably the only dog I do hate, to be honest with you. Stupid laughing mutt. He needs to go away. That's all I got to say about this stupid dog. But both Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers were amazing. They were phenomenal games for the day. Super Mario Brothers, what can you say about it? It's a classic for a reason. People keep going back and doing speedruns on it to this very day because it's so damn good. Duck Hunt has mostly been forgotten at this point. I blame the dog. Again with the dog, I blame the dog. He needs to go away. Stupid, stupid dog. No, I don't like the dog. Outside of those initial games, though, the first one I really remember begging my mom for in Toys R Us, because I remember seeing the card for it. Because this was back when you had the slips that you would slide out, take it to the front, and then they'd go back to the cage and they would get you a copy of the game. So all you had was like a little insert card. But Toys R Us worked. And I begged and pleaded with her to get me Metroid. And I adored Metroid. Metroid was a phenomenal side-scrolling adventure. RPG elements, because you had to get the energy tanks, and you had to find the weapons, and all these things to be able to progress. And you were just left to kind of explore this big open world with just all these monsters and cool settings, and it was just awesome. And it was stupidly hard, and I don't think I ever beat it without putting in the Justin Bailey code. For those of you who don't know, the Justin Bailey code was a code that you could put into your NES in lieu of a password. And what that would do is that would give you the ice beam, it would allow you to jump, I want to say about another body length higher in the air than you could normally, because Samus's suit is gone, she's just in a pair of boots and like a single bikini thing. And part of the reason that I put in that code wasn't so much that I couldn't make it to the brain, I was really struggling through the tunnel as you went out, because you had like 5 minutes after you killed Mother Brain to make it up this big tunnel, and the things got really small to where it's just like, you know, a little step about that wide, and I kept missing them. With the Justin Bailey code, I was able to avoid some of those and get to the larger platforms and make my way out and complete the game. Unbeknownst to young me, they pretty much stripped Samus down to where she's naked for a split second and put her in a two-piece bikini at that point. By that point, I'd already ruined the ending, because when you remove the armor, you realize Samus is a girl. So, I knew she was a girl before I completed the game, even though it was still kind of surprising to see her put in a two-piece bikini and kind of wave. My next big love was actually one that my brother pulled out, and that he really wanted, which was The Legend of Zelda. And there's not enough time to go into how many good things I have to say about the original Legend of Zelda. It is an amazing game in every aspect, and I think it's the one that probably got me into RPGs as a kid. It had all of it. You know, it was easy to control, it was easy to understand. You had tons of weapons and items. You had ways of replenishing your health. There were cool monsters. It was a big open world for you to explore, find your way around. There were cool dungeons with all sorts of neat, cool monsters in them, and weapon upgrades on weapon upgrades, changing your approach to how you handle things, getting you new swords, and just the idea of going off to save the princess and everything was just unbelievable to my younger self. And still to this day, I love that game. Matter of fact, it's one of the few games I actually have a physical copy of. And that's because a buddy of mine actually gave me a physical copy of the game. Knowing I loved the game and knowing I was into retro games and I had been building a couple of pies and things like that to be able to play these things again, because I didn't have a way to play them at the time. And he wanted me to have this copy. And he knows I don't have an NES. Like, I don't have a functioning NES now. So this sits here in the box, and it's actually in really good condition. Kind of got like a little dent or ding on one side over here. You can see it. But, I mean, the back of the box still looks great. It's got a couple of creases and things, but man, it's in good shape. I keep it in my closet away from sun and on a shelf where it doesn't get beat up or anything like that, because I want it to stay in good, pristine condition. It's still got the map, it's got the sleeve, it's got the manual, it's got everything with it. I love having this cart. I'm not a big physical media collector in games these days, but I love owning this cart. It brings a special amount of meaning to me, not only because a friend thought enough to give me his copy of the game, because it brings back memories of me talking to my brother about where he'd gotten in the game, accidentally overwriting his save file and having almost beat me within an inch of my life. I was pretty pissed. He was not happy. I felt really bad, and actually still when I think about it, I feel really bad overwriting his save. I think he had like 8 or 10 hearts at the time, and I just erased all of his data with like a save that had like 3 hearts because I had just started the game. I still to this day don't know if he ever went back and finished the game. I, for my part, finished both quests and loved every minute of it. I had a blast with that game, and I still hold it up as one of my Bluebell main RPGs that I love and I occasionally go back to because I love that game so much. I think it's a phenomenal game, every aspect. Another one, just because this will probably be my last one, and I mentioned this one because it was one of the ones that was kind of quirky and weird, and arguably looking back at it now, and I see people's argument on it, it's not considered a good game, is Goonies 2. I loved Goonies as a kid. It was one of my favorite films. It's still one of my favorite films. I will still put that movie on and happily just sit there and watch that film. No joke. And the game was great. You get to play as one of the kids, you run around, you can hit things with like a yo-yo, and that's how you attack the bad guys. Later on you get a slingshot, and you get all sorts of different items, glasses and ladders and ropes, and all these things help navigate the world and open up the areas more and more to you so that you can like find your friends and rescue them and escape from the bad guys and complete the game. I cannot for the life of me remember if I completed this game. I know I got pretty far in it as a kid, and I remember actually getting in trouble because I was grounded at the time and I wasn't supposed to play the NES. And my brother comes in with my mom, and I'm bragging about how I found an item in it, And my brother just looks at me like, you're such an idiot, and shakes his head as my mom just loses her mind, getting angry with me that I was playing the NES while I was grounded. It was worth it. Mom will probably kill me if she ever sees this. I feel like it was worth it. She'll probably call me a little shit. She'd be right. I still feel like it was worth it. I got the ladder, damn it! I got the ladder! Oh god, I have so many fond memories of the game. And the music. Oh, the music in that game is so good. They were playing like Cyndi Lauper's Good Enough in the background. And it wasn't the full tune because you couldn't do the full track in the game. The NES wasn't capable of that. But you could do a resemblance of it in MIDI, which they did, and it just set the tone off just beautifully. Being able to go into rooms and being able to knock on the walls and open safes and figure out things and figure out how to get to new areas was just so much fun back then. I don't know if I could go back and play it and have the same memories I had then, but it was a great game. It was another really great game. I highly recommend at least giving Goonies 2 a shot if you have not. It's not going to be a short game. Well, it probably is if you know where everything is, right? Like if you know when to knock on the walls and you know when to like use whatever hammer or anything, a mallet or whatever that you get to be able to open up areas and things like that. It probably is a pretty quick game, but for somebody just coming into it flat-footed, it's probably going to take you a while to complete. But it's a fun game. I had a blast with that, and it just sticks out in my mind a lot. I'm honestly kind of curious to see how everybody else is going to respond to this. I've seen a few, like Alpha Nerds, and I saw Mr. Matthews' response video as well. And I'm kind of curious to see what the rest of you guys had to say. What kind of formulated you as a gamer, got you into games? What games do you remember? Were there any that got you in trouble like me? Maybe that's why I remember some of these. Because they all got me in trouble or almost got me beat up. But I'm curious to see what your experiences were and what you're into. Maybe you're a younger gamer and you're not... NES wasn't your first system. Maybe it was the PlayStation or the PlayStation 2. Maybe you're, even older than me or my age. You were into Atari or in television. I mean, what are some of your experiences there? What did you like about the NES when it came out? What games did you gravitate to when it first came out? What piqued your interest in it? Because I don't know anybody that really didn't have an NES. I guess a few people just had a Master System and skipped the NES entirely, but most of the people I knew actually had the NES, or at some point had the NES and got a bunch of games for it. So I feel like almost everybody, at least in the retro crowd, has experience in the NES library and probably at least has a few games that they fell in love with. And if you don't, what's your retro experience? What got you into games? Sound off in the comments or make your own video and shout out to me and let me go watch it, because I'd be really curious about it. I've had a lot of fun making this video, talking about how much trouble and how much of a little shit I was when I was younger, doing things I wasn't supposed to do. And now I'm kind of curious to see what you guys are going to come up with on your own and what you're going to throw my way as far as what you're into and what got you to the point you are today and you're in gaming as a hobby or even gaming as a career if you do and you happen to see this. I'd be curious to see that too. Yeah, let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out some of the other videos. I'm going to tag this with MegaDan29. I feel like that's a pretty big commonality that people had done on these videos, so you should be able to find it if you key in MegaDan29 and find out a bunch more on other people that have done videos similar to this. But for now, I'm going to sign out. I'm going to wish you guys a great evening and happy gaming.